Can you take all the phones away?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can read the Sanskrit first.
What's it?
This is chapter 3 called Karma Yoga. So we've gone forwards now just to deal with this question. So we've gone off our systematic talk, and we'll just answer this question from this verse. So this is chapter 3, text 35.
Oh, it's quite...
Text 35 and the third chapter. So we were at the fourth chapter, so we're going to go backwards.
I think, is it all right? I don't want
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. As long as it's related to Krishna, it's fine.
Okay.
Which this is. This is spoken by Krishna. So we can read that together, the Sanskrit. Shreyan swadama viguna paradamat sunustitat swadharme nidanam shreya paradamo bhayavaha. We'll do it once more. Shreyan swadama viguna paradamat sunustitat swadharme nidanam shreya paradamo bhayavaha. Okay. Geet, would you like to read the English?
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Gulshan, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I was with right there actually. These days I walk to Bhakti Tree.
Okay.
Walk to Bhakti Tree, so that's why I get late. It takes a little time. Sorry.
Healthy. That's good.
Okay.
Okay, so
shall I go?
Yeah, please.
It is.
We are doing 3.35.
Yes.
3.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Well, Gulshan, last week you may remember, Narendra had a question on chapter 3, text 35. So we're just going to look at that. That might be the whole session we look at that. Let's see how we go. So, chapter 3, text 35.
Yeah.
We're just going to read the English.
Yeah.
Okay, go fire away.
It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Distraction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous.
So this is a very interesting subject matter and a little bit hard maybe to understand. So we'll discuss it from different angles. One point I'd like to make is this is quite a significant verse because it's actually the first two parts. There's, you could say, 4 lines in the verse. So the first 2 lines appear in another place in the Bhagavad Gita as well. So Krishna's actually said it twice. So if something is repeated, that means it's a very important instruction. So for your reference, it's in the 18th chapter, which is the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And text number 47. So text number 47 in the 18th chapter, the first 2 lines are the same. Shreyasarama Viguna Paradama Sunastata. So that's exactly the same. Krishna says exactly the same thing in the 18th chapter. And also the significance is that the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is like summing everything up. And normally the final instructions, there you could say, are the most important ones. The final things a great personality says, that's like the person has summed everything up and given the essence and the main things presented at the end. So the fact that that's also said in the 18th chapter means it's a very essential point. So the second 2 lines are a little bit different, but the first 2 lines are exactly the same. So we can read that, the English translation for that one. Narendra, do you want to read the English for that one?
18.47, is it? That's
Yeah.
what you said? Yeah.
Yes.
It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reaction.
Okay, so the bit that's the same is saying it is that it's better to do your own duty imperfectly than do another's duty perfectly. So that's in the 3rd chapter, that's in the 18th chapter, right?
Yeah.
Now the difference is in the 3rd chapter, it's saying that it's better to be destroyed in doing your duty than to follow someone else's path, because that's dangerous, right? Whereas in the 18th chapter, it's saying duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. But there's a connection, do you see?
Yes.
Because in the first one, it's saying it's better to do your own duty, even if it's a bad result, than do another person's duty and get a good result, right? And that if you do another person's duty, it's dangerous. But in the 18th chapter, it says that if you do your own duty, you're never going to be affected by sinful reactions. So what in the first one, 3rd chapter, is saying it's dangerous if you do another person's duty. So where's the danger? The danger is if you don't do your duty and you do someone else's, the danger is that you are going to be affected by sinful reactions. And sinful reactions is a cause of our staying in the material world. Why are you in the material world now, in this particular body? Because of sinful reactions from your past life and many lives. No, past life or lives, many lives of sinful reactions. This body is a result of past sinful reactions. And our future lives are going to develop according to our current sinful reactions. So if we're occurring sinful reactions now in this life, that's going to cause us one of the reactions of our sins that we do now, of our bad karma that we do now, is one of the reactions is going to be you're going to get another body. So you see, you have this body now, which is the cause of your suffering, because, right, the body, you're suffering from birth, you're suffering from old age, you're suffering from disease, you're suffering from death, from suffering from COVID virus, suffering from losing a job, having a marriage breakup or whatever it is, health problems, or whatever the different ailments are, it's all because you have this body, and this body is a reaction of your past sins. Because of your past sins, you have this body which is causing you so much suffering. And the sins that we do now, the bad karma we do now, is going to cause us to get another body which is going to perpetuate our suffering. So even though the last 2 lines in the verse is a little bit different, but it's the same meaning. That if you don't do your duty and you do someone else's, you're going to get a sinful reaction. And that's going to be dangerous for you. It means suffering for you. So it's dangerous. It leads to sinful reactions. And of course, the result of sinful reactions is suffering. To get free from suffering, we have to get free from sinful reactions. And that brings us to the point of yajna, because we've been talking about yajna, right? What's one of the results of yajna, sacrifice? When you do activities to please the Lord, which is what sacrifice means, when you do activities to please the Lord, one of the results is that frees you from sinful reactions. So when you do your duty for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, that frees you from sinful reactions. But if we give up doing what we're supposed to do, then we get affected by sinful reactions, and we're going to have another life again and again in the material world. So that's one point. Another point is we'd like to discuss is talking about duty here. What's all this about prescribed duties? From an atheistic point of view, do we have duties?
For atheists?
Yes.
Well, I mean, to some degree, but I mean, I was brought up a typical atheist that really you can do whatever you like, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Whatever makes you feel good.
Exactly.
If you feel like staying with this person, if it makes you feel good, then do it. If you don't feel good about it, then just go your own way. Or if you feel like doing that job, do it. If you don't feel like doing it anymore, you know, if it doesn't make you happy anymore, just give it up. So pretty much you can sort of, with modern atheistic philosophy, you can pretty much sort of do anything you like because you understand there's no one in control except for you. You are basically the center. I mean, we have this saying, right? I am the Lord of all that I survey. Heard that one before? I am the Lord of all that I survey.
No, I haven't. Okay.
You haven't? Really? That's sort of a Western.
Western, well, I'm not Western, I'm Indian.
Yes, you come from the Eastern.
Yeah. Thank God I didn't hear that. I didn't
Yeah.
get that.
Because
Western.
survey, because I used to be a land surveyor for some time. So survey means whatever you can see, whatever's within your vision, is within your survey, like that. So I'm the Lord of whatever. I'm the Lord of all that I survey means I'm the Lord of whatever I see.
Oh,
I'm the Lord. I'm the controller. I'm the master of whatever I can see. Basically, I'm the proprietor. I'm the controller. So that's the modern in the modern world. That's quite a all-pervasive philosophy in this godless civilization. So if we have a godless civilization, what do you have? If you take God out of the equation, then what's in the equation is that we think we're the controller. We think we're the enjoyer. We think we're the friend of everyone.
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but in our materialistic mind that's envious of God, envious of Krishna, it makes a lot of sense. You know, because what is our purpose of the soul coming to the material world? We want to escape Krishna. We want to escape Krishna's control. Why Krishna has to be the enjoyer, why he has to be the center, why he has to be the controller, why he has to be the master, why I have to be the servant. No, I want to be the master. So therefore Krishna creates a material world. And that's what is false ego. False ego is that consciousness where we're thinking we are the center. We are the Lord, we are the controller, we are the enjoyer. This is the psychology of the soul with a false ego, affected by the mode of ignorance and mode of passion, like that. So this is the effect of the soul being controlled by the modes of material nature, that we're trying to imitate God and we want to control and enjoy. So in modern society, there's no real sense that there is this supreme being and he's giving you duties and you have to follow them, otherwise there'll be consequences. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, don't do your duty. What is duty? I mean, what do you understand? If someone says, please explain to me, what does the word duty mean?
Well,
what does it mean to you all, the word duty?
What are you supposed to do or live your life according to, that?
Yeah, duty is something you're supposed to do, something you have to do. But who is saying, that you're supposed to do it, you have to do it? It means there is some higher authority, whether it's your mum or dad giving you a duty, that your duty, my dear son, is to wash the dishes after dinner. That's your duty, is to clean your room. Your duty is you have to clean your room, you have to wash the dishes. Otherwise, no, we won't give you any pocket money and no dessert, after dinner or whatever. So or the duty might be that you might have different duties from the government. So that's another authority, right? Is the government. But basically some authority is telling you what you have to do, what you're supposed to do. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, what you have to do, then there may be some consequences from that authority that's giving you those particular prescribed duties. It's often mentioned like that, prescribed. You'll see it in the verse that we're looking at, prescribed duty. It means someone has like dictated or written down, given us these particular things that we have to do, prescribed, according to, just like there's a similar word, prescription, right? The doctor, isn't it? If you're sick, right, you're sick and you go to the doctor and you say, I've got this cough, and he or she gives you a prescription that you have to take this cough medicine 3 times a day, 2 tablets before and after, each meal and whatever like that, and drink it with warm water and like that. Don't eat pizza and cheese and ice cream, like that. So he'll give you a prescription, right? So these do's and don'ts, these duties that we have, of, like for example, we could have what is our duties as a Hare Krishna? Our duty is to, what were some things we should do is chant Hare Krishna. And we should take prasadam, food offered to Krishna. And then within the prescribed duties is also things you don't do. Okay, no more meat eating, no more illicit sex, no more intoxication, no more gambling. So this is our prescription given by the Supreme Doctor, Krishna. Does that make sense? Yeah. Prescribed duty. Just like you get a prescription. And that if you go to the doctor and you submit yourself, okay, I'm surrendering to you, doctor. You please make me better. I'm really sick and I'm suffering and I want to be healthy again. So you please make me healthy. And he or she says, yes, I will do my best to make you healthy, but you have to follow the prescription. You have to, if you want to get better, you have to follow my prescription. You have to take the medicine, you have to follow the diet, right? You have to take the medicine, you have to follow this diet. And for us also in Krishna Consciousness, our diet is we only eat food offered to Krishna. That's the diet. And the medicine is chanting Hare Krishna. There's someone's pictures popped up on the screen, but there's Hare Krishna, can you hear me? But their mic is muted, I think. Jayanti, please come here. There's some pictures on the screen with a muted mic. I think someone's trying to join us. Can you look at what does that mean?
I think that's Gita.
That's the Gita.
Yeah, that's
Brett.
Oh, what's this other one? BS.
Brett.
That's correct.
Oh, he's muted himself.
Mine
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear
now
me?
I can hear you.
My Skype just keeps shutting down
Oh, okay.
altogether, and so sorry about that.
Okay.
This is the second time I've had to just come back on again.
Okay. Your
I don't
picture
know.
appears and disappears.
Anyway, yeah.
Disappearing act.
Sorry.
Position.
Yeah.
That's okay. We have our technical issues too, and you have yours.
Yeah.
While we're talking the duties, I've got a question. Like, for example, like when my daughter comes and she eat meat and everything, what's my duty to tell her what to eat, what not to eat?
Yeah, I mean that's from your side as the authority, that's your duty to try to give her proper directions. Of course, how do you present the duties? That's your intelligence. That's if you do it very intelligently, you might be able to present the instructions for her benefit in such a way that she can digest it. But if you're not very clever and you just pull out the hammer and say, you just have to eat, you have to eat vegetarian food, you can't eat meat, and don't ask why. I'm your boss, and you have to do what I say. I'm your father. You have to do what I say, like it or lump it. So she might not digest that very well. So, but you could present it in a way that, vegetarian food is better for your health than eating meat, and it's better for the environment. It's better for the environment. A plant-based diet is better for the environment. It's a more compassionate way of living, less violence, everything like that. It's better for the world's resources. It doesn't pollute the planet so much. It's less bad karma. It's good karma. It's not bad karma. You know, so you could present it very logically and not just getting angry and trying to force, but, you know, just give her the knowledge and give her free choice, because, you know, I know personally your daughter's very intelligent, and but you know, probably, you know, been misinformed in the past and lacking knowledge, you know, suffering from ignorance. So, you know, present the knowledge, and then just give her the free choice. Even here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving many instructions to Arjuna, and then in the 18th chapter, at the end of the 18th chapter, what does Krishna say to Arjuna? He says, "I've told you everything, Arjuna. Now you do what you like. I've told you everything. Now you do what you like." So Krishna is giving Arjuna free choice, not that you have to do it, but I mean, from our point of view, we should realize that we have to do it for many reasons. Actually, our constitution is that we are a servant of God. We can't avoid that because we were made for that purpose. You know, can a hand refuse to put food in the mouth? It could, but it's pretty stupid, because that's the function of the hand. If the hand refuses to perform its function, its purpose, acts rebelliously, no, I'm not going to put food in the mouth anymore, then the hand is really dooming itself, because obviously if it doesn't put food in the body is going to lose energy, and then if the body loses energy, then the hand's going to lose energy, and the hand is completely useless. So it's really hurting itself more than anything else. So, I mean, we have the choice, but we should think of it in terms of duty, that it's something we have to do. Isn't it like it, for example, the duty of maybe it's the duty of the mother to cook for her kids, cook for her husband who's been working or something, and cook for her kids. It's a duty. And some days it might be stinking hot in the kitchen, and she doesn't really feel like doing it. But she thinks, you know, I have to do it. You know, I have to do this. I have to do it. It's my duty. Whether it's cold or whether it's hot or like that, so many things. Duty means something that can't be avoided. It has to be done. So from our part, we should think like that. Of course, from the authorities' point of view, you know, they're giving us good instructions. Why? Because they love us. You know, why does the parent instruct the child? Because they love the child. They don't want anything bad to happen. They want the child to be happy. Why does the government give instructions to the citizens? Because same thing, because they want them to be happy. They don't want them to suffer. Why does God give instructions to all the souls, living entities? Because he wants them to be happy. He doesn't want them to suffer, you know. But and we should take on those instructions coming down from our higher authorities, because they are for our benefit. So we should understand, you know, that I want to follow these instructions because they're for my benefit. It doesn't benefit the authority that you follow their instructions, isn't it? Like, you know, I mean, in one sense, whether your child is a vegetarian or whether your child eats meat doesn't really affect the parent. I mean, the parent, he or she is all sorted, you know, their life is good life, they have everything like that. But because they love the children for their benefit, for their happiness, they're giving good instructions. But it's not really affecting, in one sense, not really affecting the parent, whether they do it or not. But it's affecting the person. If they don't follow the instructions, they're going to suffer. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you follow God's instructions, it doesn't affect God in any way. But if you don't follow his instructions, it affects you in a big way. You're going to suffer, because, you know, he's trying to prevent you from going in a ditch. He's saying, hey, mate, don't walk over that way. You're going to end up in a ditch. You're going to break your neck. But if you say, no, I know which way to go, don't you tell me which way to go. I know which way to go. And then 5 minutes later, what happens? You fall in the ditch. And then whose fault's that? You know, it's our fault. But we didn't follow the instructions. And who suffers from falling in the ditch? Does God suffer for us falling in the ditch? No, he's not in the ditch. But it's us that suffers. So him giving us duties is for our benefit. It's not for his benefit.
Abhay Prabhu, is it
Yes.
also, is it kind of like you know, being grateful for your own duties to not and things that come easily to you, as opposed to wanting what other people's duties are as well, like to follow.
I think, sorry, may I interrupt?
Yeah. Okay.
The thing which I found it that I don't understand is that what is my prescribed duties are. Then, and that will tell me what are not my prescribed duties, right? So that I avoid those. Now, the thing is that I'm not able to understand what are my prescribed duties.
Yes.
Here, they gave an example.
We'll
Say,
look at
for
that.
example,
Yep.
a Brahman who is in the mode of goodness is
Yep.
non-violent,
Yes.
whereas a Kshatriya who is in the mode of passion is allowed to be violent.
Yes.
As such, for a Kshatriya, it's better to basically vanquish following the rules of violence than imitate a Brahmana. So basically, here example is giving that a Brahman shouldn't be following in Kshatriya's duties, and Kshatriya shouldn't be. But is that kind of line is there in today's life? For example, at this point of time, I want to know what are my prescribed duties.
Yes.
So prescribed means somebody has prescribed. Krishna has prescribed duties.
Yep.
But where do I get these? What is right for me? What are those prescribed duties?
Okay.
That's where I'm a bit.
Yes.
I didn't get that.
So Bhakti Mala, you keep hold of your question, Bhakti Mala.
Yeah.
You keep hold of that. We'll just bring it up later. We'll deal with that later, because mainly we want to focus on addressing Narendra's questions, but we'll deal with that later. And Gulshan, was that okay? Was that make sense with you?
Yeah, it does.
So, as your duty as a parent to try to give proper guidance to your children. Of course, it's not your duty to give the guidance to someone else's child. That's not your business. But to your child, that's your duty. And I mean, that when you bring a child into the world, then part of the duty is you're responsible to educate them properly, not only in terms of maths and science, but in terms of
schooling, everything.
To get free from suffering. I mean, of course, you don't want your children to suffer, and if we act in a way that's not prescribed for a human being, then they will have to suffer. So you want to give them that. But like I said, just try to be intelligent to give them the instructions in such a way that they can digest them, and let them decide. Because especially in modern day society, and she's not living under your roof, so you can't completely dominate her. But just give her good advice, and she has a brain, and present it in a logical way that she can assimilate it. Let her think about it, and also in terms of food like that, you present the positive alternative, really tasty vegetarian food. Just don't throw some vegetarian slop in front of her that doesn't taste very good and expect.
We always eat at the bhakti tree whenever she comes.
So make sure she can see a positive alternative that not only it's good for the environment, good for my health, but it tastes good. That's a big factor. Because when I talk with many Christians, what often the end of the conversation is, after you defeat them in every possible way, saying the Bible says thou shalt not kill and everything, but at the end of the day, what do they normally say? I like my meat. So, but you have to present to them a superior food that is good for your health and everything, but it also tastes better. It tastes better than meat.
Last weekend, when I went to see my daughter, I took the food for her mother as well.
Yeah. So Prabhupada's policy was to feed people up to the neck with prasadam. So give them as much of the transcendental foods as possible, and that gradually will give them the higher taste and help them. So but you give them good instructions, and side by side give them some nice prasadam, and then you have to be detached. Like Krishna. Krishna's giving us duties, but he doesn't force. So what to speak of us?
That's their choice. I can just give her the right education. She got her free will.
Yeah. Okay. But then we have free will, and if we misuse our free will and make the wrong choice, then the responsibility for that comes back to us. So at the end of the line, so that's something, like it said, it's dangerous. If you do the wrong thing, it's dangerous. It's going to lead to sinful. The reaction is going to come to you. And you can't blame anyone else. Oh, it's God's fault.
No.
It's my dad's fault, my mum's fault, it's the government's fault. No, you did wrong, mate. You can't blame anyone else. You're a human being with a brain between your ears. You're supposed to know what's right from wrong. If you stuffed up, the responsibility is yours. You can't blame anyone else. You can't go to Yamaraj at the time of death and say, you know, I didn't become Krishna conscious because of the government was useless, because my parents were useless. No, you can't do that. That's your responsibility.
But I think it's a divine grace. Like, you know, when like 48 years, I didn't come to Krishna consciousness. We remember, Narendra, we used to go to North Sydney Temple back in 90s, you know, like 20 years ago, but gained nothing, isn't it? I've got a Bhagavad Gita from there as well, just had the prasadam, and then we just fun and laugh and come back. But I think when the right time comes, that divine grace happens, then it happened after 48 years. It doesn't happen those days. I don't know. It's just end of the day, up to Krishna. When he wants to give his divine grace, that's only going to happen.
Yeah, but like we've talked about, it's a combination of divine grace, which is always there. Krishna always loves us.
It's also important.
Yeah,
it's also important.
He's looking to see what are our desires. See, nearly 99.9% of souls in the material world, their vision is just focused on enjoying sense gratification.
Yes.
So at that point, he can't help you.
No.
His mercy is not going to work on you.
True.
Because you're looking the other way. You turn your back towards him.
Yeah.
But when you become a bit burnt out due to, you know, repeated failures at trying to enjoy in the material world, then you open up, you become more receptive to hearing from him or his representative, like the devotees of spiritual master. Then the mercy can flow. The mercy is always there, but you're not receptive to the mercy.
Yeah.
It's like the TV. What do you call that? The TV beams. What do you call it? Beams, rays. What, I don't know what you call it.
What is it?
The TV. What do you call that stuff? The energy is going everywhere, but if you don't have an antenna on your house, you're not going to pick it up. So that's the thing. You got to be receptive. So Krishna's love, his mercy, he's our Supreme Father. He always loves us. That's always there. He always wants us to go back to God and get out of suffering. But the problem is we don't have the antenna. We're not receptive. We have the antenna for sense gratification. We don't have the antenna for Krishna.
Yeah,
you know, we threw that out a long time ago. We threw the antenna out for relationship with Krishna many lifetimes ago.
Yeah.
We chucked it in the bin. You know, so now we've got the antenna out. We only pick up one signal: sex, drugs, rock and roll, eat, and be merry. You know, so that's the thing. You know, so but if we get kicked in the head a few thousand times by the material energy, by Maya, then we maybe I'll pick up the Krishna aerial again. You know, so then we get the mercy. You know. So okay, back to Narendra. So how do we know what our duties are? That's the question. Okay, we have to do our duty, even if it doesn't produce a good result. See, that's not pointed out here about the results. We've heard so much about that in the Bhagavad Gita. It's talking many times about you should do your duty, but don't be attached to the result. So whether you do a good result, when you're doing your work, you're getting a good result sometime, or sometime you get a bad result, but that doesn't matter. That's not our part.
Yeah, but that's the problem. When there's not enough customer at the Bhakti tree, are disappointed.
What's that?
When not enough customer at the Bhakti tree, are disappointed.
Of course, but the point is it's not in your control.
Yes.
But the fact that you turn up for work at the Bhakti tree, that's under your control.
Yes.
You know, whether you go and do your work at the Bhakti tree or you don't, that's under your control. How many people walking through the door, that's not in your control. That's under Krishna's control. So don't worry about how many people walk on the door. Don't worry about the result. What you should worry about is whether you turn up for work.
Yes, that's happened for the last 3 years, every day. Now it's become 6 days a week. Yes, every day I'm there.
If you don't turn up for work, you should think, I'm a nonsense.
No,
I'm a nonsense.
Definitely, but I can. Because sometimes the chef cooked a quite good meal and beautiful eggplant curry and all that. And if not many people coming there, I'm just looking at Jagannath, You know, we just cook for the heart and Jagannath, and then okay, well, it's not. Sometimes, like, last night was not very busy, so, and then Brett was saying, let's see tonight. I say, yeah, okay, we'll see tonight, but it's nothing in their control.
However, I mean, although we have no control over the result, I mean, if you are doing your duty to the best of your ability and you're doing it, why you're doing it, to please God, to please Krishna, generally you will get a good result.
Yes.
Generally. If you're doing it to please God and you're not getting a good result,
there must be the reason
Krishna's
behind
mercy.
it.
You don't know why it's happening, but
Yeah.
you should see that as Krishna's mercy. Well, I'll give you an example. Prabhupada, imagine Prabhupada, he's in India. This is before the Hare Krishna movement. This is before he went to the West. He's in India. He's doing his duty. He's working to maintain his family. He's got a business, pharmaceutical business. And what happened to that business? It started failing. It's not because he was slacking off, but it just wasn't working out. People were taking the products. They weren't paying him. There were so many things happened like that. His wife was a pain in the backside, and sold his only copy of the Bhagavad Gita. Imagine that. He spent years writing one manuscript of the Bhagavad Gita, handwritten, and then his wife sold it to buy some biscuits to dunk in her tea. Can you imagine how devastating that was? So, I mean, there was many obstacles. Things weren't working out. The business wasn't working out. The family wasn't working out. Everything was just falling apart. So why is that? He's Krishna conscious. He's working his best. He's trying to please Krishna, and the result's not a good result. But it's Krishna's mercy. And later on, he realized that because all those things were falling apart, that's what pushed him to leave India, to go to the West and spread Krishna consciousness over the world. That's what Krishna's ultimate plan for him was, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, not just to, make a few bucks, to pay the bills. Krishna has a bigger plan, and for him, it was a really big plan to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So that everything falling apart for him materially was leading him towards where Krishna wanted him to go. So once we've surrendered to Krishna, then just leave it up to Krishna. Krishna will make us go in whatever way. So don't worry about that. Even when he first went to America for the first year, no one was interested in Krishna consciousness. No one became a devotee. But Krishna was testing. Because after that year, then people started joining slowly, and then faster. But for the first year, no results. But he didn't give up, and he kept doing his duty, even though there's no results. And after some time, then the results came. So don't, the point is, one of the points in this verse is, don't worry about the result. It's not about good result, bad result, whatever like that. But do your duty. So how do you know what is your duty? So the duty, if you look, you can either look now or just write it down and look later. In the 4th chapter, text 13. That's the famous verse, Chaturvanyam Mahashvastam Gunakama Vagasha. That these divisions in society of duty, these divisions, 4:13, these divisions in society, Chaturvana means, Varna means the social division, there's Chatur means 4. So these 4 divisions is saying Shrishtam, that he's the creator of the system, and it's done according to the gunas, according to the modes of material nature. So and as you know, in the material world, everyone is under the control of the modes. There's nobody. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's one verse that says that there is nobody from the heavenly planets down to the hellish planets. There's no one in the material world that's not under the influence of the material modes of nature. Of course, there is an exception, and that's the pure devotee. But we're not on that platform, so you don't have to worry about that one. So you're definitely under the modes. So unless you got tears coming out of your eyes sideways when you chant Hare Krishna, then you're a pure devotee and you don't have to worry about the modes. But if that's not happening, then you're under the modes. So everyone's under the influence of the modes. So according to the modes we're in, then Krishna's given prescribed duties. Particular prescribed duties to help purify us from these modes that we're under. Now, if we don't follow the prescriptions that Krishna is giving us according to the mode we're in, we're not going to get purified. Means we're in ignorance, or we're in a mixture of ignorance and passion, or we're in passion, or we're in goodness right now. As in today, Thursday, in 2020, we're in a particular mode. We're born in a particular body, which is in a particular mode. We have a particular mentality, mindset that's in a particular mode. So it's either going to be in ignorance, or it's in a mix of ignorance and passion, or it's in passion, or it's in goodness. So if it's in ignorance, then you have the duties of a Sudra. If it's in a mixture of ignorance and passion, you have the duties of a Vaishya. If it's in the mode of passion predominantly, then it's the duties of a Kshatriya. And if it's in mode of goodness, we're conditioned by the mode of goodness predominantly, then it's the duties of a Brahmana. Now you might say, well, the duties of a Kshatriya are not very relevant today, but they are. Because Kshatriya, what is Kshatriya? Kshatriya means he's a protector of the people.
For the community.
Yeah, of human beings.
That's why he's allowed to do hunting as well. They're allowed to do hunting.
Yeah, well, the hunting is part of that duty. How is connected hunting animals connected to protecting people? Because when it comes to the point of when you've got crazy people, that are hurting the citizens or whatever, your family, you don't have time at that point to practice.
No.
You don't have time to practice.
That's right.
If you're not really good at protecting both yourself and the people you're trying to protect, you're dead. So you need to practice. So who are you going to practice on? You're going to practice on the people?
No.
You practice on the animals. So you don't practice on a sheep.
Yeah.
Because they can't fight you. You practice on something that's a heavy duty animal, like a tiger, a lion, a boar, with the tusks, a pig with the tusks,
hog,
the rhinoceros, or something, something a heavy duty, a leopard, like that. Like even Prabhupada mentions 40 years ago that even in his time, the king of Jaipur, so there's one place, right, called Jaipur, and then they still have, up until recently, kings. So he mentioned the king would go to the jungle with a sword.
Whoa.
They had guns, but he's not taking a gun, because that's not fair. You're gonna shoot the animal from 200 meters away. It doesn't have a chance. So he would take a sword into the jungle by himself, and he would fight with the tiger. And he won. But he would practice like that. And then if there was a war, like, for example, when the Muslims invaded India, these previous kings, they were awesome. And the Muslims had no chance, because they were just so expert at fighting.
The Muslims are all Kshatriya.
Not only that, but because they were doing yajna, because they started their day by doing japa and doing arti and reading Bhagavatam and praying to the Lord, that they had all his mercy behind them. So that's part of the reason why they were so powerful. Of course, later on, what happened, people stopped doing the yajna, throw out the japa, no more reading Bhagavad Gita, no more artis, no more puja, no more prayer. And then your power, you wonder why your power goes out the window, why you can't even lift your sword off the ground anymore. You can't even pull it out of the sheath. You become a real weakling and your brain is dead, because you've lost the mercy. But so it's a combination there. But it's everything the Kshatriya does is coming around that his duty, which is to protect the people. See, chat means to hurt. If you break down the word Kshatriya, chat means hurt. But triya comes from triyate, which means to protect. So their mood is not that they like hurting people. Their mood is that they protect people from being hurt. In order to protect the people from being hurt, they have to hurt the other person, right?
Yeah.
They have to hurt the attacker. They have to hurt the attacker, but their mood is not to hurt the attacker. Their mood is to protect people from being hurt. Like the Sikhs, right? One of the duties of a Sikh, I think they have five duties. One of them is they have to keep a knife on their person. They have to keep a particular knife under their shirt. In their belt, they keep a knife. But why do they have the knife? Why is it their duty to have a knife? Not to protect themselves. That knife is not to be used to protect themselves. That knife is to be used only to protect someone else. If someone attacks another person, they will pull out their knife to protect that person. And if need be, they'll hurt that one that's attacking. Like that. So that is necessary in human society. Like now, there's a big problem, right, between India and China, right?
Yeah.
Some Indians died recently, soldiers, and some Chinese soldiers died too. Now, you could think, well, imagine you're an Indian soldier up there in the Himalayas, right? It's bloody cold, and you'd probably rather not be there. You think, flag this, forget this. This duty is too hard. I'm going to go home and sit in my nice warm bed in Punjab, and sit in my nice warm bed, and my mum's going to cook me, nice sabji paratha. Why am I sitting here freezing my butt off like that? Yeah. So if they did that, if they left their position, what would happen? India would fill up with Chinese tomorrow. India would fill up with Chinese tomorrow. They're already trying to push over the border. And the only reason why they haven't pushed over the border, and there's not, and there's a whole bunch of Chinese, the only reason why there's not a whole bunch of Chinese sitting in New Delhi right now is because those guys, freezing their backside off, trying to protect their country. So that's important. So it's just as important now today as it was 5,000 years ago, as will it be in 5,000 years' time. And that's because in the material world, there's always going to be the mode of ignorance. And as long as there's going to be the mode of ignorance, you're going to have nutcases. So the nutcases are never going to go away. And just because we have a modern society and blah, 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 is not going to take that away. Because the material world means there's the control of the modes of material nature. So of course, if everyone was in the mode of goodness, then you don't need Kshatriyas. Right. I'll give you an example. I mean, sometimes it does happen. Like in Satya Yuga, in the material world in Satya Yuga, everyone is a Paramahamsa. That means everyone's on the topmost level of the mode of goodness. They're all absorbed in bhajan and puja and worshipping the Lord, everything. And in Satya Yuga, then there's no varnas. Everyone's like meditating in the forest. There's no sudras and vaishyas and kshatriyas and everything,
there's no crime and
no crime, nothing. You don't know factories, nothing.
People leave
everyone's
their
in the
home
forest,
open,
like meditating, eating nuts and berries.
Yeah.
Everyone's eating nuts and berries and taking honey from the trees and taking milk from the cow and meditating, and they're breathing and everything, and they don't hardly eat anything.
And no pesticiding.
What's that?
No spray on the pesticides.
Yeah, nothing like that. So it's and that's because it's all mode of goodness in Satya Yuga. But especially if you come, it slowly creeps in Treta Yuga, and then comes in more Dwapara Yuga, and then fully there in Kali Yuga. That these lower modes are always there. So there's no question that we can avoid any of these varnas all these different duties are essential. And of course, Vaishyas are very essential. Vaishya means their mentality is what? Making profit.
Merchant.
And producing. They're the producers. They make profit out of producing something and selling it to you and making profit out of that. They've produced something for $5 and sold it to you for $10. And that $5 is their profit. So that's the mode they're in. But that's also required. If you didn't have Vaishyas, then you'd have no milk in your fridge, no veggies in your fridge, no rice, no bread, no nothing. You'd open up your pantry and your kitchen, there'd be nothing there if there wasn't any Vaishyas. Basically, you'd probably live for about 1 week and then you'd be dead if there was no Vaishyas, because they're the ones that are producing everything that we all need. And especially also the mentality of the Vaishyas, their mentality is to protect the animals. See, a Kshatriya's mentality is to protect the humans, but a Vaishya's mentality is to protect the animals. Like Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father, he's protecting 900,000 cows. That's his duty. You can see what happened, like if you read Krishna's pastimes, that if the cows wandered off, say one time Krishna and the boys were having a picnic lunch, right? They're having a really good time. Krishna's right in the center and the cowherd boys are all around and they're popping food in Krishna's mouth and Krishna's getting food out of his lunchbox and popping it in the cowherd boy's mouth. But then when Krishna looked up from enjoying his lunch with the cowherd boys and he couldn't see the cows, do you know what happened? Do you know what happened to the picnic when Krishna couldn't see the cows?
What happened?
Forget the picnic! Where's the cows? That's our duty. That's our duty, to protect the cows. They all went looking for the cows. And what happened? Krishna went looking for the cows one way, and the cow actually what Krishna didn't want his friends to upset their picnic. They're having a nice picnic. He said, look, just stay there, keep enjoying the picnic. I'll go and look for the cows. But that's the duty, right? You're a Vaishya, you have to protect the cows. So Krishna, he's God, but he's acting as a Vaishya. That's the duty, to protect the cows. So he said, don't spoil your picnic. I'll go and look for the cows. So Krishna went looking for the cows and he couldn't find them. And then in the meantime, Lord Brahma, because he had already stolen the cows, that's why there was no cows. Lord Brahma stole the cows. And then when Krishna went away, Krishna stole the cowherd boys too. And he put them all asleep in a cave. And then Krishna came back after he couldn't find the cows, and then he couldn't find his friends. And then Krishna thought, oh my God, how am I going to go home to Vrindavan and tell all the parents that I'm sorry, I lost all of your children, and all the cows, that I lost all the calves. And how am I going to go back without anyone there? So what Krishna did, he expanded himself into replica cowherd boys and replica calves. So for 1 year, those replicas were interacting with all their parents and everything, and the parents never realized, this is not my real child. Anyway, that's a whole story, and you can read that in Krishna book. But just pointing out the duty of a Kshatriya is you have to protect the animals. Vaishya. And the Kshatriya is to protect the humans, and the Brahmana's duty is to teach. And teaching is a very valuable role, obviously. And actually, that's the primary role of ISKCON. The primary role of ISKCON is to teach. So we're acting as Brahmanas. Acting as Brahmanas, teaching. So in every society you have teachers, you have intellectuals. There's scientists. You could say the scientist is sort of a Brahmana. But the problem, and what Prabhupada points out, that the Varnashram system, you can't escape it. It's created by God. You can't escape these different natures, that you have this nature and you have these different duties. But the problem is it's not being organized properly in modern day society. So what do you have now? What are modern Kshatriyas like? Are they protecting the people? They're exploiting the people, Prabhupada pointed out. Their duty is to protect the people. But the modern Kshatriyas, they're ex-politicians, exploiting the citizens, taking taxes from them, so many things. And are the citizens feeling safe?
No.
Do you feel, as citizens, do you feel safe? All around the world, the citizens are feeling insecure. Do they feel protected and loved? Do they feel sheltered by the government? There's so much anxiety. Are the citizens without any anxiety? When you have a proper Kshatriya, the citizens have no fear, no anxiety. Not just from the fact of someone's going to come and attack you, but even in terms of you get proper rainfall, proper amount of food supply. All that is part of the Kshatriya's responsibility for the citizens, to make sure that they get the proper rainfall. And you can ask, how is the king going to make sure there's a proper amount of rainfall in his country?
He's going to do a yagya.
Yagya, and we read earlier in the 3rd chapter that from doing yagya, rain comes, and from rain, then you can grow your grains. So basically, a food problem is solved by doing yagya. Yagya, then you get rain, and then where does yagya come from? That verse says yagya comes from prescribed duties. It all starts from prescribed duties. You have the duties saying, look, you have to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the sacrifice recommended for Kali Yuga. If it was in a previous yuga, it'd be like a fire. You know, there's different yugas. You have different kinds of sacrifices, but the principle is the same. You're doing some activity to please God. But how did you know that you have to chant Hare Krishna? Because you got that sacrifice from the scriptures, from the Guru. So that's where your duties are coming from. Your prescribed duties coming from the scriptures. It's coming from the spiritual master. Where did he get it from? From the scriptures. Where do the scriptures come from? From God. So we get these prescribed duties coming down from God through the scriptures, through the Guru, through the sadhu. And then you follow the sacrifices. You do the activities to please the Lord, and then things work out. You get what you need. So this is very essential. So Prabhupada's point is, in modern society, we have Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, but they're not organized properly. Instead of protecting the citizens, they're exploiting the citizens. Their citizens are not peaceful. They're not happy. The Brahmanas are supposed to teach people like who they are and who God is in a relationship with God. But what are the modern day Brahmanas teaching?
Oh, they're not teaching.
There's no God. Everything comes from matter. They say life comes from matter. They don't say life comes from life. Like Prabhupada wrote one book, Life Comes from Life. Life comes from soul, and the Supreme Soul from God, not from matter. But the modern day Brahmanas are teaching everyone the wrong things. That life comes from matter, from material combination. Just chemicals come together and life comes out of it. But that's not a fact. That's not the truth. That's not proper teaching. That your great-great-great-great-grandfather was a monkey. That's not a proper Brahmana. He's cheating people. That your ancestors are monkeys and you all started out from a big bang, and then you were microbes under the water and they crawled out and they evolved into that thing. Then they slowly evolved into monkeys, and then you evolved from a monkey. You know, so, but this is cheating. That's not a Brahmana's duty, is not to cheat people. But this is a society of, Prabhupada said many times, the cheaters and the cheated. The cheaters and the cheated.
I think it makes sense now. Yeah,
And then Sudra means he doesn't have enough intelligence to make a living himself, working it out to make a living. So he makes a living from serving others, by helping others. So the Sudra, he is serving the Vaishyas, serving the Kshatriyas, serving the Brahmanas, like that. So he has a role of service, of menial service, menial service. And if he's doing that, he's happy. He or she is happy doing that. My dad, for example, he's an engineer. He has an engineering business. And he had an idea, instead of me telling all my workers, all these Sudras, what to do all the time, I'll make them their own boss, and they're part of the engineering firm. We'll break it up into different departments. So you'll be in charge of one department, you'll be in charge of another department, you'll be in charge of another department. So they're all his idea was to make them all their own boss, right? They're not just Sudras anymore. They're their own boss. They're like, make them Vaishyas, right? But within a very short time, what actually happened? They all just stressed out. They weren't used to having to work things out, how to make decisions and everything like that, and how to make the profit and everything. And it just stressed them, and they all became very unhappy, and they couldn't function properly. They were happy when they were just told what to do. Some people work best just being told what to do.
So they have been
cut the potato like this. They can't work it out. You have to tell them, cut the potato like this, boil the potato for 10 minutes, just do like that. If you ask them, cook a curry, they can't work it out themselves. They want to be told what to do. And they want to just get X amount of money at the end of the week. They know guaranteed I'm going to get $500, $1,000 at the end of the week. Guaranteed I'm going to get that money. I just do my work, be told what to do my work. They don't want to have the anxiety that if the business doesn't go well, I'm not going to make any money. Maybe 6 months, I'm not going to make any profit. Before the profit comes, I have to see a businessman like a Vaishya. He has to, like sometimes, like if you're growing crops, 1 year you have the rain doesn't come, or you get a drought or whatever like that, or hail or whatever, and you don't get any potatoes, you don't get any corn. But that's just tough luck. That's what a Vaishya deals with. Maybe a flood comes and wipes out all your crops, but that's the life of a Vaishya. Sometimes you make heaps of profit, sometimes you lose money. But like a Sudra can't handle that. They just want to have guaranteed that you're going to get your plate of food at the end of the day, and you got a roof over your head and everything's like that. They don't have that much faith. Whereas a Vaishya has more faith that, I'll do my work and God will help me. So it's a Vaishya is higher than a Sudra. They have more faith like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there's different mentalities are there. See, and if you try to put someone with like I said, you try to put a Sudra mentality person in a Vaishya role, he's going to be unhappy. He's going to be disturbed. Even if he could do the work. But is he going to be peaceful? No, he's going to be stressed. He's going to be like for some time I did the work of a Sudra when I was working as a land surveyor. I was working for my boss, and I did the work very well. He was very happy with me. I got the results, and I did the work very well. But from my position, what was going on, I was unhappy. I was morose because I had spent previous years. I'd been trained up as a Brahmana, and I became good at it, at teaching, in a teaching role. And not only that, I felt so peaceful and happy when I'm teaching. And then due to circumstances, I got put back in a Sudra role, just working for someone. And I did a good job, everything like that. But I wasn't personally myself. My mind was disturbed. I was not happy because I wasn't working according to my duty. I deviated from my duty. Do you understand?
Yes. Yeah.
I deviated from my duty. I was acting outside of the modes I was in. I was through my birth and also through training from the Guru and everything, I was situated in the mode of goodness. And then I changed to acting within the mode of ignorance. And even though I produced a good result there, But another result was that my consciousness was disturbed. And if my consciousness is disturbed, how is that going to affect your Krishna consciousness? Are you going to be able to remember Krishna when you're disturbed?
No.
The whole idea of the Varnashram system is to situate people in such a way that their minds become peaceful. You have food on the table, you have roof over your head, you're doing work that you like doing, you enjoy doing, and you're producing good results, and then your mind's going to be peaceful, and then Hare Krishna comes easily, comes automatically. If everything's dysfunctional, nothing's working out, your life is in chaos and everything, physically, mentally, everything, then it makes it more difficult. So the whole idea, what Krishna set up for us, is to organize a social system in such a way that everyone can be situated properly according to the modes that they're in. So then materially, they're going to get what they need in terms of food and shelter and so forth, and a partner and everything. And then also they're going to be mentally, they're going to be peaceful, and they're going to be able to think about God, and that's progressive. Materially, you have everything. Physically, mentally, you're all good, and then spiritually, you're progressing. That's the perfect social system. But now, what's the situation? It's all chaos. The Sudra is working as a Brahmana, and the Brahmana is working as a Sudra. And no one knows whether they're Arthur or Martha, or whether even people don't know anymore whether they're a man or a woman. Now we have it. If you fill out a form, there's another category. Used to be just two categories, right? Man or woman. Yeah. Now there's, how many categories is there now?
I do not want to answer. Those are categories.
And now my wife said now there's a category you do not want to answer. So you don't know even if what body you're in. How confused is that? Everything's become so unclear, but it doesn't have to be. Krishna's made it very clear that these divisions are brought about due to the modes we're in, and you can identify that. Like if you look, you can write it down and look later, because we're running out of time as usual, that in the 18th chapter, text 41, for a few verses, from text 41 in the 18th chapter, it talks about the qualities of a Brahmana. Like, how are you going to know if you're a Brahmana? So then in 42 it says, this is just an example, these are the symptoms of a Brahmana: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So of course there might be a particular mode that you're born with, right? But even if you're not, like I wouldn't say I was born a Brahmana. Definitely not. But through training, you can develop these qualities. Through training. Like I received training in Brahmacharya ashram from the spiritual master for many years. And through training, you can develop these qualities of peacefulness, tolerance, self-control. And you get knowledge. So you accumulate knowledge through hearing, like what you're doing now. See, by doing this, attending these classes, you're going to develop the quality of knowledge. And if you apply what we're talking about in these classes, you're going to achieve the quality of realization, which is applied knowledge. Applied knowledge is called Vigyan, or realization. So you're getting knowledge, and and hopefully if you apply it, you'll get some realization. And through this knowledge, hopefully you'll become more religious and more devoted to God and everything like that. So these are the qualities of a Brahmana, like that. And so then Krishna tells the qualities of a Kshatriya, then he tells the qualities of the work of a Vaishya and Sudra, like that, to help us identify. And of course, it can be worked out from the guru, from the devotees. They have knowledge. They can see what mode you're in. You might not see what mode you're in, but others that are more enlightened with knowledge can see. Oh, Narendra's in this mode, or Bhakti Mala's in this mode, or whatever. It would be the best work for you would be this work. Because you're in this mode, the best work would be like this, like that. And Vedic culture was so scientifically organized, even from birth it would already be known, and that's through astrology. If the person is, and the astrologer, of course, is a Brahmana. He's an intelligent Brahmana, has knowledge of astrology, and they would see, this person, like the astrologer, he'd never met me before. He never met me before in my life, but I told him the time and place of my birth, and he told me things that were just so spot on. Then I immediately had faith in what he was saying. He said, you have a very good relationship with your mum, but not with your father. And it was just so spot on. He says, you'll do better if you stay away from your father.
He never met you.
He never met me. He said that you've never been back to the place of your birth, which is true. I was born in a tiny island in the Persian Gulf called Bahrain, some godforsaken place called Bahrain, just off the coast of Saudi Arabia. And I've never been back there in nearly 50 years. So that was just spot on. He said, did you have a really big bang on your head? And I said, yeah, I fell out of a tree on my head when I was young. So, I mean, everything he said was just so spot on. He's got so much knowledge through the planets like that. But then what he said just went right to my heart. And that's the time when I was working as a land surveyor, just as a Sudra. And he said to me, he said, you were made to teach. He said, if you don't teach, you're not going to be happy. And it just went in my heart. I already knew it in my heart, but I was ignoring it. I already knew it. I was so happy when I was teaching. I left that and I was not happy. He said, if you were made to teach, that means that's my duty. Krishna made me for that purpose. He put me in this body with this mind and this intelligence for the purpose of teaching. And we know what I was meant to teach was Krishna consciousness, not just become a science or a maths teacher or something. But I was made to teach Krishna consciousness. So Krishna has given me everything for that purpose. And if I don't use it for that, that's called a miser. If you are given something very valuable and you don't utilize it properly, that's called a miser, which in Sanskrit is called kripana. Brahmana is the opposite of a kripana. He's got something very valuable and he uses it for the best purpose, for pleasing Krishna, for helping others like that. He's very broad. Brahmana means very broad-minded, whereas kripana means very narrow-minded. Kripana is very narrow-minded, very miserly. Even it said, of course, the example we know, that a kripana, miserly person, even they have a lot of wealth, but they don't even use it, what to speak, not for others, but they don't even use it themselves. They could be wearing clothes with holes in it, and they have holes in the roof of their house, and they don't even have proper food. But there's millions of dollars in the bank. But there's such a miser that they don't even use it for themselves, let alone their family or the public or whatever. That's a miser. So Krishna's giving us different abilities. So we should use it. Don't be miserly. We should use the God-given abilities Krishna's given, and we should use it for his pleasure. And then that's the ideal situation, to understand the God-given abilities that we have and use it for the proper purpose, to follow our duties. Don't worry about the outcome. And then if we do that, then God will be happy, and then we will be happy, and then everyone else will be happy like that. So, of course, like I said, modern society has gone far away from that. We're all in chaos. But we ourselves, we have to start correcting that from ourselves. Don't worry that your wife isn't doing her duty, or that your children aren't doing their duty, or your parents or the government or whatever. Or even that the Christians aren't doing their duty, or the Muslims or the Hindus, or even the Hare Krishna movement's not doing their duty. Don't worry about anyone else, whether they're doing or what they're doing, or whether they're doing or not doing. But think about you. Are you doing your duty? Because at the end of the day, that's all you have control over. You don't have control over whether someone else is doing their duty, but you have some control over whether you're doing it. So before you can do your duty, what do you have to do? Before you can do your duty, what do you have to do? And that's what Narendra's question is.
Yeah, that's what.
You have to find out what
Your duties are.
Okay, I want to do my duty, but I don't know what my duty is. And that's the problem we have in Kali Yuga. Everyone's so confused. We don't know who we are. Am I Arthur or Martha, or am I a man or a woman, or am I a Sudra or a Brahmana? I didn't even know there was Sudra.
Narendra is a man, I can guarantee.
I don't know what I am. Yeah, that's the question. I mean, I'm so confused.
But then, in this purport, and I think it's and like I said, this basically the same verse in the 18th chapter that tells you. Then there's in that purport, you can look at that later. The purport in the 18th chapter, there's two kinds of duties. There's material duties, right? Material duty is how is that worked out according to your psychophysical nature. Psycho means mind, right? The mode that your mind is in, and psychophysical, physical. So your physical, that's also according to the modes is affecting your physical condition and your mental condition. So according to your psychophysical condition, there's going to be a particular duty. And like I said, if your psychophysical is mode of ignorance, Sudra. If your psychophysical is ignorance and passion, mix, Vaishya. If your psychophysical is passion, Kshatriya. If your psychophysical is goodness, Brahmana. And then there's another duty, and that's your spiritual duty. And your spiritual duty, that is given by the spiritual master, by the guru. Like I said, the spiritual master says, chant 16 rounds, Hare Krishna mantra, don't eat meat, take intoxication, illicit sex, gambling. These are your spiritual duties. And that doesn't matter whether you're a psychophysical Sudra or a psychophysical Brahmana or a psychophysical Vaishya. The spiritual duty is the same. To surrender to Krishna, to follow his instructions. So whether you're a devotee working as a Sudra or a devotee working as a Brahmana, you have the same spiritual duties to chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulator principles. But the psychophysical, the material duties will be different because you have a different mentality, because you have a different body type. Like generally, Kshatriyas have very strong body type. Generally, you wouldn't make me a Kshatriya because I wouldn't last 5 minutes on the battlefield. I'm too weak, too skinny. But generally, like you see, like now in India, I bet you those guys up on the border to China, there are a lot of big guys there, the big Sikh, very powerful, big bodies.
Narendra's family is in the army.
Like that. So, and like it mentions in the 18th chapter there, their mentality, they're very courageous. That's the symptoms of a Kshatriya. They're very courageous. They're not like cowards. They're not timid people. They've got a lot of courage, and they're very chivalrous, and they're actually eager to fight for their people or country or whatever like that. So there's a particular mentality that a Kshatriya has. If you got a Kshatriya that runs away on the battlefield, that's not a Kshatriya. Kshatriya, they have a lot of pride too. They're happy to be shot in the front.
Even if they lose, they don't run.
Yeah, but
even if they lose,
the idea of being shot in the back.
Lose the battle, but they
if you get shot in the back, that's not a good sign. Shot in the back means you were running away, mate.
Yeah,
that's devastating. Yeah. That because they have a lot of. That's part of their psycho too. They have a lot of pride. But see, you might say, well, that's pretty bad. They were very proud people. But that pride is being used for the protection of society. Krishna has arranged that ego to be there, that pride, that you don't want to be shot in the back. You would rather die shot in the front, and that people will glorify your name. That Narendra died for his country, and you that's great. That's what you want. You don't want to be alive that people are calling you a coward behind your back. So, and that ego is required. Otherwise, how are you going to do that work? So Krishna gives you that pride, that egoism, everything. But that's not a bad thing, because it's helping you to keep the society functioning properly. like to keep all these rogues under control and these criminals and everything like that. And then slowly, it's all going to progress. Because even though you have a lot of ego, but you're doing it to please Krishna. So because you're doing it to please Krishna, then Krishna will purify you of that prestige and wanting fame and recognition and all these kind of things. That lower modes of nature will slowly become purified. So that's what it said. You should do your duty, because if you do your duty, you're going to get purified. You can't change your nature. It means like now Gulshan. Can you change your nature? Means can you change your body into someone else's body?
Not really.
Can you change your mind, throw it out and put in another mind?
Not really.
No. So what we are saying is that the material mode of nature in which you are existing will not change. Is that what you're saying?
I think we've lost him.
He's mute.
Yeah.
Oh, it's frozen. Yeah, okay.
So now, Narendra, you know that your duties are?
Yes. I know my duties. Yes. Now I am trying to
What's
get
your
to
question then?
But the thing is that I want to know where I am. I am basically a Kshatriya. Really, I'm a Kshatriya, or I'm a Brahman, or I'm a Vaishya, I'm a Shudra.
Your brother is in the army. You are a Kshatriya.
He is separate. I mean, he's a separate living thing, right? Living being. I am a separate. And I think I've read somewhere which says it's possible that you might be